Okay, so in part 2, what we are looking now is more to the algorithm or what type of the machine learning that we have. So this is general on how the learning system of model. So you have input data, then you have a training data. The training is the process to understand the data that we have, and the learning method or whatever learning method, and we have a testing, then we get the result. That's a general model of the machine learning. So how the machine learning do is you see the picture, the three picture. So you see this is really important for the picture. The first picture is tell you that the data, if you observe in training, you can derive one feature that can make a boundary between this data. So for example, in order you want to predict who can get a best result in study, perhaps you can see example for who can get a best result for the programming. Perhaps you can see the historical data for the people who have a good result. For example, perhaps they have a good excellent in the mathematics. They have a background in the programming before, perhaps the student from a diploma or the student from another institute. So this kind of the attribute that you want to see in order you want to predict. That's the meaning of that. Then you have universal set, and you have unobserved, and another one you have testing. You try, so you have training set. The training set, the process you want to get a feature. The universal set, the process, the real data that you have, and the testing set, where the time you try to differentiate between what you want to classify based on the training set that you have. So I will explain more on this, okay, later. In the next slide is about this is more clear picture on this. Is like we train something, and we have something that we want to observe, and we able to make the system learn to get a proper result and try to differentiate between these things. That's I mean train and testing. So there are several factors that affect the performance of machine learning. Is some type of training provided, the form and extent of initial background knowledge, the type of feedback provided, the learning algorithm used. So this is 4 things that can affect the performance. For example, before we go, that I will explain more clear on this later. Okay, we go to the next slide. This is on an algorithm. The success of a machine learning system also depends on the algorithm. So the algorithm controls the search to find and build the knowledge structure, and the learning algorithm should extract useful information from the training example. So this is what I want you to focus. In machine learning category, it divides into 2 main techniques, but in this case it's 3. So we have the supervised, we have the unsupervised, and we have the reinforcement. Okay, in supervised, a good for a problem where each input data point is labeled and belong to a category. Okay, I will explain general on supervised and unsupervised before we go to the reinforcement. Okay, in order to make the system understand, we need to have the training data. So the training data is based on the like I said before, if you want to predict someone who maybe have a good possibility to have a good result for the programming, you need to know the previous student that have a good result in programming. So then you classify the feature set. So perhaps you have 1,000 previous record, then you are good to go for the supervised. So what the most important part to differentiate between a supervised and unsupervised is supervised require a training data set. So in order to do a prediction. So that's a kind of supervised. But in unsupervised, you supply the data, then this unsupervised try to cluster the data based on feature that they learn. So they don't need a training data set for this. So they just do the clustering. We call it clustering. In supervised, we call it classification process. Okay. For same example for the programming, let's say you have a group student who take the programming subject. So you want to know where the possibility, the group that might have a good result. Okay, So what the machine do is based on this kind of based on the algorithm that you supply. So the process is they cluster, the machine cluster the people in the programming who take a programming into the group, whether he or she have a possibility to have a good result or not. So this is not based on the training data that before. It's not from the training data. This is based on the feature that we give. So that's the main difference between unsupervised and supervised. Supervised, the problem because the result is to depend on the training data set that make the training data is really fit in order you have a good result. In unsupervised, you don't need the training data. However, one of its major disadvantage, perhaps disadvantage is you need to verify the result with the expert person. And the last one, the reinforcement. Reinforcement is sort type of when the machine learning have a result. So we, a user or human, give feedback to the machine, and the machine learn from this feedback in order to predict a new one. For example, the machine, you give a machine a picture of a cat, but the cat is more look like a dog. So this machine translate the system as a dog, predict this picture is a dog. So that's really wrong. So you give feedback to the system, you say that this is not dog, this is a cat. So what the machine do when some picture come, we have quite similar picture with the previous one. So this machine not make an error. So it's like the reinforcement. You have you need to have a feedback from the user. Okay. So that's the last of the chapter 2. So we break for 1 minute or 2 minutes. We continue for the part 3. Thank you.